Joe Maguire brought both vision and hard work to everything he did in his professional life. He is responsible for the transition, the conversion, the transformation of Binney Street from a truck route, invented originally as a truck route, to one of the most important innovation corridors in the city of Cambridge. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this honor than Joe Maguire.
How Joe transformed Kendall Square will be his legacy for many years to come.
Kendall Square is the center of the life science universe, the center of excellence. And there are so many companies and startups that are within the Kendall Square area. Joe's been part of that journey basically from the beginning, from when MIT started developing University Park with Forest City. Joe being honored in this way is really fitting. He has spent so many years in Kendall Square from the early 90s, I think, all the way through till his retirement just recently. And the things that he's been able to touch along the way, the different buildings, the different tenant fit out spaces, all of the tenants that he's worked with, and certainly all of the community engagement between MIT projects and ARE projects. There's been so much engagement with the East Cambridge neighborhood, the Wellington Harrington neighborhood, the port, Cambridgeport. The interaction is really hard to capture. And so certainly Joe's had a tremendous impact on the community and built so many relationships along the way.
When I think of Joe Maguire, I think of honesty and integrity and the amount of different audiences that he had to interact with as he helped develop Kendall Square into what it's become, whether it's community activists, whether it's competitive landlords, whether it's tenants, citizens in the neighborhood. Joe had a very kind of understated, calming way about him that I think really translated into making him as effective a change agent that he was in that market. You know, a lot of times in our business, there's a lot of loud voices and big egos. And Joe, in a very understated but honest way, had a way to sort of handle a negotiation and get to a place that worked for all parties, which was very complicated, not only at the beginning, but in the entire run-up into what Kendall Square has become today, and Joe now enjoying his retirement. And the other thing I would say about Joe is he's a very sneaky good golfer.
Thank you to everyone who nominated me. It's something that came to me most unexpected, as I had retired 4 years ago, and the whole COVID thing came over. So again, thank you to everyone that nominated, and thank you to anyone that's present at our event.
Who is Joe Maguire?
Joe Maguire. Joe Maguire is one of 4 Joes in my family. The original, is still alive. He's 98. He's done very well. He's a very well decorated, both Korean as well as World War II veteran, former politician from Waltham. So, and then I have a son, Joseph III. I'm junior. And he has a son, Joseph IV, who I did not ask him to make that name. I also have a daughter.
What I liked most about Joe is that we would start our conversations about family, and that meant a great deal to both of us. And I can remember the day when Joseph IV arrived. He was so animated and excited. And then we would get into the topics of business. But the fact that family first was a big factor in my relationship with Joe Maguire. Joe, as a professional, was just a committed urbanist. He cared so much for the city of Cambridge that that's going to be his legacy. He provided all those of us that worked with him as architects with high level of inspiration, that we achieved the highest level of design excellence to help the transformation of Kendall Square. And for that, I'll always be grateful to Joe for that support in those initiatives that he inspired in us.
I began my professional career at MIT in 1985 and held several positions. starting as an assistant property manager and worked my way up to being a director of real estate at Timco. So I spent 20 years at MIT learning my craft. There were some very special people that I got a chance to work with. People like Steve Marsh, John McQuaid, Maureen McCaffrey, Mike Fahey, Dennis Gilson. There are all, and there are many more that I worked with. I also got to work with Alan Buffett, who is the treasurer of MIT, and it was fantastic in terms of what I did. After I left MIT, I joined Alexandria Real Estate Equities. I actually followed one of the properties that I had been involved with MIT when Alexandria bought them from a ground lease, and that was Technology Square, which I was responsible for many of the conversions to life science buildings on that campus. Again, more was completed once I was with Alexandria, and I really had a great time with a team of people, and it takes a team. I'm just consider myself a team leader, team player, and those teams stretch from the people I worked with directly to the community, to several mayors and councilors and city council. I'd like to say thank you to David Marr, who is the former mayor of Cambridge at the time that I was developing property along Binney Street. It was a lot of his efforts that helped me initially get the development moving. But there have been several mayors after him that I worked with wholeheartedly, and also several councilors that also deserve the credit, because it took a community to do what I accomplished with the teams of people that were around me. So I'd say there were two phenomenal groups that I got to work with. I want to thank David Manfredi, who was the architect that of record for both the planning portion and the retitlement portion of the work that we did, as well as the first building, which was 100 Binney Street.
Joe Maguire brought both vision and hard work to everything he did in his professional life. He is responsible for the transition, the conversion, the transformation of Binney Street from a truck route, invented originally as a truck route, to one of the most important innovation corridors in the city of Cambridge. And he looked at it holistically, not just about buildings, but about historic buildings, about public realm and sidewalks and bike lanes, about new public open space. What is today a 2.2 acre Tim Toomey Park in East Cambridge. Joe saw the whole picture. He was the visionary in creating the zoning amendment. He was the collaborator in directing the entire project. He was there every day. He owned it. And he brought to it a special sense of caring about the outcome. They're not just buildings. They were about making place. And it never ended. It was always, there's one more piece, and there's one more piece, and there's one more piece. And what you see today is the product of all of that emotional, intellectual investment. And personally, I've known Joe for more than 20 years as a colleague, as a client, as a collaborator, and also as a friend. I've always found him to be incredibly engaged, thoughtful, someone who listens, someone who brings together people in a way to make things better. It has been my great pleasure to work with Joe Maguire over a number of buildings, over a number of years, and I can't think of anyone more deserving of this honor than Joe Maguire.
We also worked with Al Spagnolo on several buildings along Binney Street, and his team of players.
Joe transformed our practice. Joe, in 2009, when I first met him, gave us a chance to compete on a major commission in Kendall Square, which is the center of life sciences and research, in my opinion, on the globe. And for us, that was transformative. We ended up designing 3 major buildings in Kendall Square, and can't express my gratitude to Joe on behalf of not just the firm, but also, my colleague John Sullivan had said the same this morning when we discussed Joe Maguire.
They were both excellent architects, great attention to detail, great follow through with all of the design work that occurred there. So again, kudos to both of them. I also worked with Frank Valdez and some of the residential work that was done along Binney Street as well.
What do you think? What might else happen there at Kendall Square?
Well, a lot is slated to happen with the Volpe development. That will be probably the largest development that's left in there. There's not much land left in Kendall Square once the Volpe Center is redeveloped. So I'm looking forward to the folks like Michael Wu and Maureen McCaffrey bringing to fruition many new buildings and several million square feet of new properties that will occur in Kendall Square. So that'll be the topping off of Kendall Square.
Rapid fire type of questions. When I say Kendall Square, what comes to your mind?
MIT comes first. Second would be life sciences.
Okay. And when I say just life sciences, what comes to your mind?
Novartis. Novartis Pharmaceuticals represented a tremendous change for Cambridge and for Greater Boston and Massachusetts when Novartis decided to come to Kendall Square and go to property that we at MIT at that time had to develop for them. So their first location in Cambridge was at Technology Square, which I assisted in all of that development.
Life sciences clusters.
Life science clusters. Kendall Square is by far the largest, most concentrated square mile of life science that I know of in the world. It has more than 140 companies and many other supporting technology companies that are present there. You couple that together with the venture capital that's available in this cluster and the education that is coming from MIT, Harvard, and other schools, and the clinical abilities that are present with Mass General and other teaching hospitals, Harvard Teaching Hospital, and BU, all of them. It all works together. No one piece is really the one that's more successful than the other. It's the whole thing that has come together, unlike anywhere else that I know of.
Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Cambridge, Massachusetts. It is a fun place. It has a lot of cultural diversity. I think that's part of why people like to be in Cambridge and want to stay there. So it is a very highly educated population base, and people that live and work there are givers. So there's a lot of nonprofits that have do a lot of good work for the less fortunate in our community. So I'd say it's unique. It's educated and at the same time it's caring.
Success and failure.
One of the things that's very different about life sciences is that success and failure can take a fair amount of time before something is known, whether it's going to be successful or not. The duration of a company and their ability to bring something to market, is going to probably take in the vicinity of a decade for it to come to be. It's unusual that you get something like Moderna, who was able to bring a vaccine for COVID to the market as fast as they did. That is truly remarkable as to what happened. But the life sciences have, I believe, are very durable. There are more than 10,000 diseases that still have not been conquered, and there's a lot of work still to be done. and new technologies that still need to be discovered out from the basic research that comes out of MIT and Harvard and other schools and gets applied.
Now, everybody speaks so highly of you, not only as a professional, but also as a human being. So my question to you is, who inspired you? What is your inspiration?
I've always wanted to do something more than just work. I always felt a need to give. So most of my career, I actually worked with nonprofits. It's hard to think of MIT as a nonprofit, but I've done a lot of housing development for low income families, first time home purchase programs, and I did that early in my career. And as time went on, MIT appealed to me because it was an opportunity for me to sort of up my personal game in terms of what I could learn. So I learned a lot from working with MIT. Phil Trussell in particular, who was a really early mentor for me. He was a former director of real estate for MIT. He's now retired. I miss him greatly. And I don't know what else to say at the moment.
Okay, so now, I mean, you have seen life sciences industry grow in Massachusetts, get established, get thriving. And also we have seen some ups and downs, like, there was a boom going on. Now suddenly there is some sort of a slowdown in life sciences. When you think about life sciences industry in Boston, how do you look at this industry, looking forward for next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years?
Again, the industry will follow the basic research that is being funded through NIH funding, and as long as that research is continuing, and I don't see it being interrupted, it is something that we all need. I think it will continue to be successful. It has spread out further than Kendall Square. At one time, it was, I'd say Kendall Square was the center of it all. It probably still is the center, but there are more tentacles to it now than there have been. So, but I do believe that Cambridge and Kendall Square is special in terms of those businesses that want to be there and have the speed and access to both talent and capital, as well as the science. It's a very important location for the big research. Manufacturing doesn't need to be in Cambridge. You may find some, but you generally don't find a lot of manufacturing in Cambridge. It can be elsewhere. It's the research that drives it.
Now, the last question is the real estate market today in the context of technology, remote work, hybrid workspace. Where do you look at the office real estate market?
Office is part of it, is part of the life science community. You need to have the different disciplines that support life science. Most people, when you talk about life science, don't understand that more than 50% of the space that is occupied by the life science tenants is going to be office in itself. But there are other groups like IBM and Watson and the initiatives like that that are present in the cluster, and it's all important. I believe it all feeds on each other, and it's there because of the educated base and the ability for people not just to work for one company, but potential for several companies over the course of their career. I can't stress enough how much that being part of a team was important to me in building teams and building relationships and always keeping my word through everything that I did. That's something that was extremely important to me. And again, thanks to David Marr and several of the city councilors that made this possible. So again, thank you to everyone. I just wanted to say a special thanks has to be given to the team members that I got to work with at Alexandria. Michelle Lauer was extraordinary through all the years that we worked together with the community as well as internally. Andy Reineck got to build many millions of square feet that we were able to develop. Tom Andrews was very instrumental with the developments as well. And nothing can be said more than Joel Marcus, who's the chairman of the board of Alexandria Real Estate Equity, who made all of this possible. So again, I wanted to say thank you to the Alexandria team.
What comes to mind for me is Joe being just a really unique individual, a trustworthy, influential, intelligent person who has such a strong commitment to the urban environment that it inspired all of us at SGA working with him. Joe definitely, and from my perspective, is a visionary when it comes to the built environment of Kendall Square in particular. I mean, the results are there. He was a great executor. He could manage the teams. He also had a high level of expectations from the consultants that supported his efforts. You knew Joe meant something when you received an email from him and everything was in caps. But again, a great collaborator. Inspiration, I think, is the word that comes to mind over and over again when I think of Joe.